Let's have a look at question 9 now. So we have to compute the optimal consumption choice. Okay, so I plotted here the graph again that we drew in the previous video, and also the utility function. Now what is the property that we're looking for? This is very analogous to the simple consumption model with goods, where we have MRS equal to the ratio of prices. In this case, what we're looking for is that the marginal rate of time preference must equal to the slope of the constraint. So that would be 1 plus the interest rate. Now let's calculate the marginal rate of time preference and see if that satisfied this condition. Now over here we know that we have the income of 110 euros in the present and 110 euros in the future. What we're actually looking for is whether we have an incentive, we have a desire to consume more in the present or in the future. Is there an incentive for us to sacrifice a bit now or later? Now that's gonna be told us by the MRTP. So let's differentiate the MRTP. Let's calculate it, because MRTP is equal to the marginal utility with respect to consumption in the present divided by the marginal utility with respect to consumption in the future. Now what's that gonna be? The marginal utility with respect to consumption in the present, that's the derivative of the utility with respect to consumption in the present, and that's just going to be 1 over C1. So 1 over C1 divided by the derivative of utility with respect to C2. So this is going to be this term over here differentiated with respect to C2, and that's just going to be 1 over 1.25 times 1 over C2. Now if we work out the math over here, what do we get? We would have 1 over C1, and then we multiply with the inverse. It's going to be 1.25 C2 divided by 1, and that's equal to 1.25 C2 divided by C1. Now let's see, what is this MRTP at the current level? If we spend the money just in this amount, 110 euros in the present and 110 euros in the future, without doing anything, what's going to be the MRTP? Well, the MRTP in that case would be equal to 1.25 times consumption in the future would be 110 euros that we have in the future, divided by consumption in the present would be 110 euros that we have in the present. We cancel out the 110s, so we would have just 1.25 as the MRTP. And recall that we're looking for the condition where this value of the marginal rate of time preference would equal to 1 plus R. But if we look on our budget constraint on the slopes, we can see that the slopes in one case is equal to 1.1, the absolute value, I'm sorry, let's call it the absolute value, because otherwise the negative signs might confuse you. The absolute value of the slope over here is 1.1, over here is equal to 2, and the absolute value of the MRTP that we're looking for is 1.25, so it's not equal to any of them. In other words, there's no incentive at that specific point for the consumer to either save money or borrow money, because the constraints, the interest rates are not favorable to do that, So in other words, the consumer is going to decide to leave his consumption as 110 euros in the present and 110 euros in the future. Hope this makes sense, and we are done.